change. We definitely have set clients and friends that have supported our gallery for a long time, but it's constantly changing who walks through these doors, and it really surprises us. There's probably never a weekend these days that someone's not here as a destination.
Right.
And it can vary. It can be, one time this year we had a couple who showed up from New Zealand on their honeymoon. We were their first stop. And then there was a mother and daughter from New Zealand. There's been people from everywhere. And through the Instagram or word of mouth or anything, look at our website or whatever, somebody says, oh my gosh, I need to get there.
Right.
And that is like so humbling and such a warm feeling, and it makes you over and over realize, okay, that's why I do all this.
Right.
We try to, when we open a show, we try to have a full experience where we have combined art and music and kind of give people something a little extra to make it even more fun and memorable for driving from Dallas or Austin or wherever, because it's not uncommon that we have an opening where people come up from Houston or people drive in from Austin or Dallas.
We try to make it a full threaded event.
Right. But it's probably not punk anymore.
No, it's not. Well, you know what? It probably is in its aesthetics.
Right.
Punk isn't punk
But
anymore.
the music at the show probably isn't punk.
And you know what? I don't know. Bruce still listens to punk music, but I don't know that. I don't care anything about the punk music, and I don't know that it was ever really the music. It was the drive and the emotion, But each show we try to think about music that fits, and no, we don't tend to have punk bands. We have had Quintron and Miss Pussycat from New Orleans, and that's kind of punk rock, and that was amazing. It was great, and we love those folks.
But we've had theremin players. One of the lodge shows in here, we had that guy playing the theremin. The guy was wearing a tux, and he was playing, the theme from Star Wars on the theremin.
We've had, cumbia and country and, you name it. We've had it just about here. So it's always different.
Right.
We try not to get pigeonholed.
Right.
We sell some books. We kind of try to keep our book section going, and we're really excited about this new William Ferris Voices of Mississippi book and CD and DVD package set. So we're going to carry those here.
I think one thing that we have, we never set out to have an art gallery. That's not what we set out to do. So it's very important to us to have a diversity of things. For anybody to come in here, you can experience it, but there is something on your any level to take away.
Right.
So if you want something, if you want to support the gallery or find something, there's going to be something for any price range.
Right. Yeah, I think I read one article describe your place as art, oddities, and antiques. And so
probably a pretty good one.
Just looking around, we have the Carnival Freak Show banners, which I think are just awesome. And then the fraternal stuff, things made out of bottle caps, just on and on. But
and this current exhibit is all about Texas, and then we worked with a friend of ours who just wrote a book about outsider art in Texas, and we worked for nearly a year in putting together this exhibit. So there's, with our friend Jay and Bruce and I, there's a lot of really rare pieces in this exhibit, and but we also did a T-shirt, so you could buy some rare piece of art when you came to the exhibit, or you could buy a $20 T-shirt.
Right.
So.
And I think for us, it was the books. A lot of the artists that we wound up going to visit and then buying their art, we first just saw it and read about them in a book.
Right.
And it would say, James St. Thomas lives in Leland, Mississippi. Well, we jumped in the car and drove to Leland and tracked him down.
Back when you still had to unfold the map, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that happened a lot of times. with us that the power of books, and I'm a book collector. I love going to Larry McMurtry's bookstore, Booked Up, and I'm a book hound. So I think everything goes back to the books. And if you're interested in art and you're not somebody that has the means to collect, you can always buy the books, and you've got so much information there that the stories are really what's so interesting.
Awesome. So what shows do you have coming up? So there's this show that's up, that's through September?
It's through into August.
Right. And then
it's into August.
Time
and then,
to retool.
Yes, and then mid-September, I think September 16th, if I'm not mistaken, is Camp Bosworth.
Okay.
From Marfa. And we've shown Camp's work before. He's a really incredible artist, carver, painter, great sense of humor. And his show is primarily about Dairy Queen and the whole Dairy Queen loss of Dairy Queen.
Right.
Carved mainly through wood carvings. He carves hamburgers. He carves the cone with the little the dip cone.
Wow.
French fries and who knows what.
Yeah.
He has a great sense of humor, and he's really a good artist. And his objects are very contemporary and very popular, pop, fun, folky, wonderful. You know, anybody who's ever been out to Marfa knows Buck and Camp, and they're a great couple and have a great place out there. And Camp we've known since he lived here in Dallas, and he's always done artwork. And it wasn't until maybe 8 years ago that we realized that he was fitting what we did at that point.
Sure.
And so we've had one person show for Camp in the past, and it was really amazing, where he did these 9-foot carved gilded revolver that was actually opened up, and it was a bar, and it was all about, his whole exhibit was about the narcos being down there.
I've seen that. I saw it. I was doing some searching online out in Marfa and saw an image
It's
of that.
spectacular.
It's just like,
and so
it's crazy.
Even though we say something as simple as Dairy Queen, it won't be simple. It will be something that completely challenges your mind about what that means about Dairy Queen, whether you love or hate Dairy Queen.
Right.
It'll be great and enjoyable, because that's how Camp does things.
No, I know in my childhood, I think small town Texas was far more closely associated with Dairy Queen than nowadays. We think of Whataburger, right? But as a kid, every small Texas town had a Dairy Queen.
You could get the Belt Buster or the Hunger Buster or the Dilly Bar,
the steak finger basket.
Finger basket, yeah. They just had all these kind of iconic things. That,
I mean, who didn't want to, order a Dilly Bar?
Right, exactly.
Just from the name of it.
Right. Chocolate covered bananas.
I guess now a lot of towns, they say they're losing their Dairy Queens. I think there was something in Texas Monthly magazine that said that a lot of Dairy Queens are closing.
So that's the main thing we're working on, but we have a number of things in the works that we're really excited about.
Awesome.
So
if people wanted to keep track of that, it's webbgallery.com?
Webb Art Gallery.
Webbartgallery.com.
Webb with 2 B's.
2 B's.
Yeah. Okay.
Like our name.
Webb with 2 B's, artgallery.com.
Yes.
And what about on Instagram?
Webb Gallery is
that's just it. Webb Gallery.
Webb Gallery, yeah.
Right.
Instagram, Facebook, we do all those.
There's
Twitter,
a Bruce Lee Webb too with my visual art. If somebody wants to follow that, that's
and so tell me about your art. Well, it's I think I've seen a little bit. There's some collage, and then you do some drawing over it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to when we did the Bad Karma fanzine, a lot of it was just India ink and then paste up, so kind of a collage thing. And we started buying a lot of scrapbooks, and so I started to paint in the scrapbooks and use the scrapbooks as my paper.
Nice.
And so, kind of from being in the antique business, I started working with old either fabric or old paper, and then I've also worked on old tin and painted on tin. But yeah, I've done visual art going back to the 1980s.
I think it's very influenced by the things he likes, like the hobo graffiti, what he's talking about, and the storytelling and books and characters. And
yeah, it's Cavallini. It's an Italian surrealist, and a friend of our friend Buzz Blur, who's one of the luminaries in the mail art world, and then his railroad graffiti, Colossus of Rhodes, he's probably the most famous guy out there. Anyway, he became friends with this guy named Cavallini, whose premise about art making or for writers was that if we will stick to our own story, even if we don't think our own story is interesting, it will be to somebody else, and you know you're on the right track as an artist if you'll tell your own story, because it's your story and it's what we should be doing. So I try to keep Cavallini in mind when I'm in that moment doing art. And I think our stories, often they're not interesting to us, but if you really think about it or use that kind of as a basis for what you're creative, you're trying to create, it kind of can be helpful.
And that's it's interesting. A couple episodes back, I shared a story with a guest about, he was saying, he was talking about how something wasn't interesting. It didn't seem interesting to him, but it was interesting to somebody else. Right? And I was telling about how, when I was a kid, they came and shot Tender Mercies, here in Palmer, where I grew up, and we went out and visit the set, and they filmed in my church. I got to be an extra in this whole thing, and they filmed like in the church where I grew up in the baptistry. And when the film finally came out, we went to see the movie, and my parents like totally didn't get it. They were just like, I don't understand, like, why this movie's about nothing. Like, what's the point? And like, it was so much about where they were from that they couldn't.
Right. So it's like they were too close to the story to see what was so special about it.
Right.
Yeah. I think we all kind of suffer from that in a way, like we're too close to our own stories, and so it almost takes like somebody else seeing it. It's almost like the way, blues music was not appreciated here, but then, the British were paying attention to it and listening to it, and it's like, oh yeah, the Stones are listening to this. Oh yeah, we need to pay attention to that.
Right, exactly.
I think that's what I find about our gallery. The people who do come in, that they like what they see. They like Bruce and I. They like this, but they don't get it. Mm-hmm. It's because it's all about them.
Right.
It's a challenge, maybe having a gallery in an area where the people that come in aren't always people that are interested in art, or a lot of times they'll come in and they'll be completely bewildered as to what this is. Right. What is this place? Is one of the questions. Did you make all this stuff? Is one of the questions. And
Where'd
I'm
you
guessing
find all
maybe
this
galleries in big cities get those same questions, but I think we probably get more of them being in Waxahachie and presenting some of the art that we do. I mean, like a Hawkins Bolden, the blind man that punched holes in the hubcaps and the tin cans. I mean, you kind of have to be a black belt in art to, appreciate that anyway. And, presenting it in Waxahachie maybe is even more kind of further afield of a slick, art intelligentsia. So maybe we're trying to get away from the slick art intelligentsia and present the art to just everyday people. And in a way, like if you look at Crystal Bridges, I think that they have that same thing. A lot of the people that walk in that museum, maybe it's their first experience in a museum, and they're just not sure that you can't touch things. And so I think the docents and the guards there have to kind of do some extra education to just let people know that you don't touch things.
But it's such a wonderful museum, and it's so welcoming.
So we really like the idea about art, telling a story, a sense of place. I guess in Texas, we felt like had we not been preserving